you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. Jimmy Murphy and Pierre McGuire. Pierre, before we get into what was just an insane weekend of hockey, both at the pro and college level, I want to discuss the sub-tier pros, specifically the ECHL, where your son Ryan McGuire made his pro debut and scored his first pro goal to tie the game for the Iowa Heartlanders, who ended up winning 3-2 and securing their first ever playoff spot. What a moment that must have been for you, Pierre.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was great for our families. Happy for the team, actually. That was a big point they got in that game against a very deep and veteran-laden Wichita team. What I found amazing was the atmosphere in the building. It's really a cool building. I wasn't there. I was watching it on TV. But it was cool to see the atmosphere in the building, the promotions that they do. It seems like a really fan-friendly environment, so I think that's really cool. And then the other thing that I think is really neat, the professionalism of the coaching staff. I was really, really impressed by Derek Damon and his staff. Really impressed by it, just the professionalism. Since Ryan's been there since last Wednesday, I think.
Okay.
And just every day has been structured. It's just structured like an NHL situation. It's really cool.
That's great. Pierre, I wonder too, when Ryan got the call to go there, you played pro hockey here and overseas. You've coached. Is there one focus of advice that you want to give him going over, and that you might give any kid in his situation heading into their first pro game?
Professional means professional. You're not an amateur. You're a professional. So it's your job. It's what you do. One of the neatest things is Ryan said, Dad, I got a guy in the team that's married. I got another guy that's got a living girlfriend. He's used to being a college player.
Right.
And I said, well, there's the difference. And I said, most of the men you're playing against, some of them have car payments, some of them have mortgage payments, some of them have school payments. This is what they do for a living. Like, they're not going to play nice with you. Yep. So they're pros. Yep. And so that's the only thing I told him. And I've told him that since he was a little boy, because he came to me I remember coming back from a road trip, a long one too, and he was young. He might have been like 4 or 5 years old. Dad, your job's so cool. I said, yeah, I won the lottery. You're probably not gonna. And he said, no, I want to do what you do, but I want to play first. I'm like, okay. So as it's gone along, as he's grown up, it's kind of been like that. It's just kind of, but you always try to remind him, it's one thing to say you want to do it. It's another thing to do it, because you got to live it. You got to live it every day. Right. And you just travel with me, the last little while, and you see, it's a different way to do stuff. You either want to do it or you kind of just don't really want to do it, but you like saying you do it. There's two different ways to do it. Yeah. And I think too, on that note too, in terms of, when you mentioned that these are guys, especially not below the NHL, that this isn't just some glorified job. This is their real job. This is like, them working a 9 to 5, or this is their 9 to 5. It may not be those hours. They may be able to be doing what they love. But when you hop on the ice and you're facing opponents that are in that situation, who every shift could depend on if they're able to pay their mortgage next month, you got to know that they're going to be ready to come at you. And I think, Pierre, I think sometimes, today's youth coming up the ranks, they can tend to forget that, but they can get reminded in a hurry when they get there. Really good point. You know what? I really like how you phrase that too, Jimmy, because I think you're spot on. You've been around a lot of guys from the American League. You've been around some guys that played in the East Coast. So you've been around a lot of guys that played in Europe. It's not the NHL. No. It's really good. The hockey is amazing. The difference between the AA, which is obviously ECHL, and AAA, which is the American League, is not very much. And it used to be a big divide from the American League to the NHL. That shrunk. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of really good players around right now. And a lot of it's because the off-ice training has just changed the dynamic of the game significantly. Yep. And if you can bring all that, strength and conditioning stuff to the rink, and you have hockey sense, you might start at a certain level. You're going to finish at the highest level. It may take you a little longer. Everybody's path is different, but you could do it. You could do it, especially if you have the hockey sense.
You know, we'll move on in a second, but I wanted, because he's going through my head as we're talking about this. One guy I want to mention that's a perfect example of this, Sean Thornton.
100%. 100%.
I mean, you know, that you told me the story about him, what he did to get to where he was, and for our listeners out there, enlighten them on what he used to do in the off seasons way back in the day when he was trying to work
like crazy maniac of training all the time. And I don't know how many exact fights he had in the American Hockey League, but he probably had close to 175 fights. You could look it up, Jimmy, maybe 200 fights.
Yeah.
Like he didn't walk into the NHL. He earned his way in the NHL. He fought his way into the NHL. And by the end, that Merlot line in 2011, with Gregory Campbell and Danny Paya and him, that line was massive in Game 7 in Vancouver. They wouldn't have won the cup without that line. No way. Sean's such a special guy. I've always enjoyed every meeting. I've had him over for dinner. I've been with him on the road. I know you're good friends with him, but he's a special guy. Sean Thornton's a really special guy.
And just so people don't know too, I remember, and you told me to ask him about this too. In the off seasons, he would work in the coal mines at one point. I mean, this is a hockey player, and then go back to playing the ECHL. He's in the summer, he's working in the coal mines. I mean, it's that. So for those people that think that, like, I'm hearing it a lot right now, and we can segue it into this, Pierre, because it's that time of year with NCAA free agency or players getting called up, and it's people that think that it's just going to happen like that. It doesn't. It's a lot of work. And just because a team doesn't call a player up right now, or, they don't sign him to a pro contract out of college and he goes to, say, the ECHL like Ryan, that doesn't mean he's not going to eventually make it. That doesn't mean the team doesn't believe. It's a lot of work. And it's a great lesson to learn for young kids right now to understand that.
Every path is different. Sidney Crosby's path was a lot different than some other guys. Way different than Nick Suzuki's, whereas Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby, their paths have been pretty similar. Ansei Kopitar's path is different than all those guys. If you had a do-over of that draft in 2005, where Kopitar is going, number 2, right behind Sid. So anyways.
By the way, those Kings too. I'm starting to get that feeling about them. This could be the year they can knock off the Oilers, but we'll get to that later. Pierre, let's stick though in terms of college free agents. It's been a busy 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, over the weekend and now today as well. Ryan Leonard is now a Washington Capital. Gabe Perreault is now a New York Ranger. Just your thoughts on those two and the impact they can have in the immediate and in the future on their two respective clubs.
Let's start with Perreault first. I don't know how they're going to deploy him. Are they going to play him as a winger or a centerman? Are they going to give him power play time, or are they not going to give him power play time? The Rangers are a work in progress, as you know, and every game matters for them if they're going to make the playoffs. So how much leash is Peter Laviolette going to give him? I just don't know the answer. We'll see, going forward. He's extremely talented. Jimmy, I've watched him play a ton. My kid had to play head-to-head against him this whole year whenever they played. So I'm pretty familiar with the player. And he's really talented. He's extremely talented. So if they give him the opportunity, he could play a big role. In terms of Ryan Leonard, he should have been in the league starting this year, this past season. He'll play right behind Tom Wilson, I have to believe. I don't know if he'll be on the first power play, but he'll be on the second power play. He's physical, he's fast, he's strong, he's gifted, he can score from anywhere. He's a lot like Matthew Nyes, but more of a ticking time bomb, if you know what I mean. Like, he's got a little Tom Wilson in him. He's got a lot of Matthew Nyes, the left shot, Leonard's a righty, and they're sort of a little different that way, but they're similar. I think Leonard's meaner. I do. I think he's a meaner kid on the ice. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Like, I say that in a positive way, not a negative way. But again, I saw some pretty intense. We talked about it. Like, my guy and the two Ryans would kill each other basically in those games. So, yeah, I have a ton of respect for him. I think he's a really good player. Really good player.
Any other free agent signings out there, Pierre, that caught your eye that maybe you didn't see coming to this point?
No, not free agents. Not free agents. Most of the guys that like McGuire going to Colorado, I get it. He's going with his brother. It's a 1-year deal for him. I totally understand that. There are a lot of American League deals given out. I told you this, Jimmy, over the weekend. There's not a lot of jobs out there. People don't realize, there are a lot of guys that are going to be signing AHL deals, but they're going to be playing in the East Coast Hockey League just because there's not a lot of space right now. There will be because we're going to have expansion, so it's going to increase, whether it's 2 teams in the AHL and 2 more teams in the NHL, or 4 teams in the AHL and 4 teams in the NHL. Something's coming. It's coming.
Right.
They have to. There's just too many good players out there. So a lot of the kids they're saying sign with Charlotte or sign with Bridgeport or sign with Springfield. A lot of those kids are going to end up in the East Coast Hockey League.
Yeah, and as we were saying before off the air, Pierre, I was talking to a scout who's saying, and you pointed out, this is why he's astonished at how higher the level of play is and competition in the ECHL right now than, say, 10 years ago, right? I mean, people thought of ECHL, they looked like, okay, that's real minor leagues. It's not that anymore. It is elevated big time.
I can tell you, like I helped run an American Hockey League team 3 years ago that made the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. And we were unbelievably well coached. Our coaches were great. Our players were really good. Guys really cared about doing that, making it. I watched that game yesterday that my son was fortunate enough to play in. The margins between that AHL team that I was part of and that game that I watched yesterday, you can't differentiate against the two. They're both very similar, very, very similar.
Yeah. All right, let's get to those games on the ice before we switch over to pro hockey, Pierre. Let's go. Everyone's talking about it right now. So let's get right into it. And by the way, congratulations to Denver yesterday for once again, for a second year straight, beating Boston College. The first team in the last 7 times where we've seen a rematch of the national championship, and the team that lost the national championship the year before didn't win. So that team now in that situation is 1-7, thanks to Denver once again beating BC. Pierre, that game to me, I felt like, and I don't know if you've ever met Mick Colagio. He's a longtime Bruins writer. Here based in Boston. He's out of New Bedford, Mass. And he made a great point online on Twitter right after that game. He said, to me, Denver plays the most pro game out of college hockey that I've seen. Now, he hasn't seen as much college hockey as you, so you might disagree, but he felt like there's just such a pro element in terms of skill, physicality, forecheck, and just understanding where to be in terms of positioning. And as you watch that game, you could see maybe some of that was the difference there. I don't know if you agree.
No, I think that's a really good point. I watched Northeastern play at Denver to start the season. They were very close games. Both games were amazingly close. And the one thing my takeaway was Denver, and you and I saw them last year in Springfield live, where they won the multiple period overtime game against UMass.
Yep.
My takeaway from having watched them there and then live this past season at Denver at Magnus Arena was structured and layered like a professional team. That's how they play. They don't have a ton of NHL guys, but they got a lot of guys that are really good players. Really good players.
Yep.
So that's number one. I would say Western Michigan is similar to a pro team.
Yep.
I'd say they're very similar. So it's going to this is a different one because I was expecting excuse me. I was expecting at least one more Hockey East team and maybe 2. I thought 3 of the Final 4 would be Hockey East teams.
Me too.
So I got that wrong.
Yep.
But that's another thing for debate.
Mm-hmm.
How the regions were set up.
Right.
I feel terrible for Maine.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So
I'm not taking anything away from Penn State, by the way.
Not at all.
Nothing away from
Penn State. They still have to win.
Yeah.
It's nothing on Penn State.
Penn State deserves to be where they are. But
we don't have
did Maine deserve to have to go play in Allentown, Pennsylvania? How many people actually saw Maine play this year outside of the great fans at Alfond Arena?
Yeah.
Ben Barr did an amazing job with his team.
And Pierre, I remember, the other day, and I was making my picks, and we were going down the line, and we can go look at that because, yeah, Penn State screwed up a lot there for me. But I said to you, right? I was hesitant.
No, you were.
Remember, I said, Pierre, I'm worried about it being in Allentown, and you said, you're damn right, that could play a role. And sure enough, it does. Now, Pierre, this isn't the first time we've seen this. It's becoming a pattern in college hockey in the tournament where a school that just barely makes it in ends up getting a really solid home advantage because of where the regional is, and they knock off a team that, earn their stripes, earn the right to be playing in the Frozen Four, or at least have a better chance to do it and not have to deal with basically playing an away game in a neutral site. And that's what that was.
It'll be, I guarantee you, this year at the coaches convention in Florida, there's going to be a lot of discussion. I don't know which way it's going to go. I couldn't even begin to tell you. And this is for the fans in State College and all across the country, because there's a big following for Guy Godowski's Penn State Nittany Lions.
Yep.
This is not a knock on you guys. You earned everything you got. This is going back a few years now.
Yep.
There's an appetite from a lot of college coaches that are like, okay, we got to look at this, how we do this. I'm not saying there's a perfect system, because I don't think there is. Mm-hmm. Everybody's always going to quibble and complain. But they got to figure out, like, Jimmy, I may make some enemies on this. If you lose in the first round of your league tournament, why should you be anointed going to the NCAA tournament? I don't care about how well you did in the regular season. Guess what? If you lose 2 out of 3 on home ice in your first round of your tournament to a team that's not even going to have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament, why should you go to the NCAA tournament lead pipe cinch? I don't think you should.
No.
I don't. And look, you know what I think of Bob Motzko. I think the world of Bob. But they lost to Notre Dame. 2 out of 3.
On home ice. On home ice.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They lost on home ice.
Pierre, the regionals to me, in terms of where they are, should not be preset. It should be,
Jimmy, though. I get what you're saying. You're living in Nirvana, which is great. No, you're not wrong. But I want to interrupt you, and I apologize in advance.
That's fine, not at all.
They have to have, like, this is pre-planned. It's about money.
Yeah,
it's about money, and I understand. I get it. And you know what we don't talk about enough? Spring break. A lot of these kids at these schools, I'm not talking about the players. The players don't care about spring break. What I'm talking about is the fans that would go to the games. If, let's say, you played them on your own campus, you might not. You played a lot of empty buildings. You wouldn't have a lot of people there. Yeah. If you were at Dakota, you would. If you were at Wisconsin, you would. If you were at, Mariucci or New Mariucci in Minnesota, you would. If you were in East Lansing at Munn, you would. At Michigan, you would. But what would you have? I don't know. What would you have at BU? What would you have at BC? What would you have at Northeastern if the students weren't there?
Yeah.
The last game I saw at BC was versus Northeastern. It was the first round or quarterfinal round of the Hockey East. It was sold out. But what happens if the students weren't there? Most of the people there were students.
Yeah.
They still hadn't gone on spring break.
We brought it up last week, the Merrimack, like you said.
Yeah, Merrimack had nobody there.
It stunk for them.
Yeah.
And that's one of those arenas because it's so small and they're right on top of you. I mean, if you can pack the joint, you automatically have a home advantage right away.
Yeah. So I don't know.
We'll see what happens. Well, of course, Western Michigan, great game with UMass. Unfortunately, everybody is going to look back on that one and talk about the 5-minute major.
It was not, Jimmy. It was not a 5-minute major.
Yeah, but I don't want to take anything away from Western Michigan.
No, and you're handling it really well. You're doing the right thing. I'm not going to make
excuses. I'm a UMass fan.
No. Suniev, if he had a chance to do it over again, maybe he lets up on the hit.
Yeah.
But I also think that the referee needs to maybe be a little wiser on that one.
Yeah. And then, come on. Then when they call one, I forget who the player was, Pierre, off the top of my head, but they call one on Western Michigan later. And it's
that was a makeup.
It's a makeup. I don't want to see games like that.
The damage was already done.
Yeah.
The damage was already done.
Yeah. You can't be handing out these 5 minutes. Like, it's too much.
I think that's something else. I've talked to a few coaches over the last couple of days. I think that's something else at their convention that's going to be talked about.
Yep.
We'll see. But I would say this, the level of play in college hockey is surreal.
It was such
It's really
great games.
It's, I thought I coached in the golden era of college hockey because there were so many good players. The games are way better now. The players are much better collectively. You still have you'll have superstars in every era, but now you got more superstars, and it's pretty amazing to watch how good these guys are. They really are good.
And then the other game, of course, Boston University for a third straight year is headed to the Frozen Four, and a third straight year under Jay Pandolfo as coach. I mean, talk about a great start to his college hockey coaching career.
He's great.
3-2 overtime win over Cornell, and of course, that wound up being the last game for legendary head coach Mike Schaefer, who, by the way, if you're watching, Coach Schaefer, congratulations on an amazing career. Enjoy retirement. Take a little breather. Enjoy it. I know it's probably hard to get away from the rink.
I know exactly where he is right now.
You earned it.
I know where the coach is right now. Well, not right now, but I have a sneaking suspicion where he'll be very soon.
Okay. Oh, good. He earned it. And a valiant effort by Cornell too. Really, it was a great game. Good for them. So good stuff there. So our Frozen Four is set. We'll get into more previewing that next week as we go into that on Campus Friday. And we'll be setting up some great guests connected to the Frozen Four on Campus Friday for this coming Friday and the following one. But let's get to the pro ranks, and let's get right to the team that a majority of our listeners and viewers listen about, the Montreal Canadiens. And Pierre, heading into that game against the Florida Panthers on Sunday, you and I were chatting, and you flat out said, Jimmy, you agree with me? If they lose this game, they're not making the playoffs. And we both agreed. And they went out there and won that game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a great performance considering where they were coming from the previous game and what happened there. Also, Florida just getting Brad Marchand into their lineup looked really good the previous game themselves. What was the difference in that Canadiens team versus the one you saw against the St. Louis Blues, Pierre?
Pushback.
And Carolina.
They kept pushing back. Even like the Philly game, too. They didn't push back against Philly. They pushed back a little bit more against Carolina. They had no pushback against St. Louis. They pushed back. Now,
nobody has any pushback against St. Louis, though. So
right now, Jimmy Montgomery. Oh, yeah, Boston fans. Sorry, it's Jimmy Montgomery's fault. Yeah, sure. We'll see how that plays out next year, too, whomever's the new coach in Boston.
Yep.
But, man, oh, man, they pushed back. Montreal has some guys. He went 60 on Saturday or on Sunday afternoon, not 7 and 11 like they did in Philly. I think it was better for their rhythm. Lane Hudson's superior on Jimmy. Like he's at a whole other. Oh my God. He's at a whole other level. Suzuki's at a whole other level right now. There's a lot to like there in terms of character and coachability and guys getting better. But Montreal still has holes in their roster. Their upper management knows that. They know that. The coaching staff knows that. But right now, what they're pulling off is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. Pierre, I know we want to stay away from drama, but it's going to be a topic heading into the game against Florida tomorrow at the Bell Center. Mikkola's little shot down the end there. My take on this is store it away for another time. Do not let it motivate your game plan going into that game. If you're the Canadiens tomorrow, do not take a dumb penalty because of that. I know if you're in the Canadiens, it's pride and the fans are going to want blood, but just don't do it. Like, move on. You have a chance to do something much bigger here than to get revenge for that.
If you notice, I didn't even acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Just because what you just said. So, and we didn't rehearse that before the show.
So you agree with me? Okay.
100%.
Move on. That's it.
Kidding me?
I know we're going
to play and get the 2 points. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
Who cares?
You can get them next year, the first 10 games of the year, whenever you play them, 20, whatever it is. You want to get them. I don't care. But don't do it now.
No.
Play the same way. Play smart. Play disciplined. Don't take penalties. Play for one another. Play for your fans. I mean, there's a lot to play for here. They got a chance to do something, Jimmy. Like, they win that game. That they got lucky. They got some help because based on if you look at the way they played in St. Louis, the way they played in Philly, and the way they played in Carolina, there was very few people thinking they were winning on Sunday in Florida. Very few.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to mention too about that game too, it's Brendan Gallagher. I know it was an empty net goal.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. What he has done, I think it's kind of an underrated story when we talk about the Montreal Canadiens, Pierre. I don't know how much you're hearing it up there in Montreal, but when I watch them from afar, just the little things he's done, the way he's carried himself as a leader, and we always knew he was a great leader, but just, and then, what happens with his mom and everything, he is such, we talked about being professional. He is such a professional, and he is everything that team needs right now, in my opinion. He really deserves a lot of credit.
He's the best asset Nick Suzuki has, and he doesn't even play on his line.
Exactly.
He's helping him with the leadership quotient on the team. It's so well said by you, and I totally agree, Jimmy. I would just say this about Brendan. I haven't seen him skate this well in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, he's skating really well. So either he's had some injuries or he knows, this is my last best shot to do something here.
Yep.
And so he's playing with the energy and emotion that you want to have from a guy that really he's a proud Montreal Canadian. Think about it. He was a 5th-round pick, Jimmy. It wasn't like he was counted on to be a player in the league.
Think about how many people wanted him gone over the years,
Amazing. Come on.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So I couldn't be happier for him. I'm thrilled for him.
Yeah.
Obviously, tough time because of the passing of the mother, but then you celebrate the birth of the child, and so he's probably getting torn all over the place. But the way he played yesterday was really impressive.
Yeah,
really impressive.
Sure. And I want to mention, Pierre, before we get over to our sponsors here, just the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They should have got all 6 points on that road trip, Jimmy.
They should have.
I told you last week that I thought they could run the table, and they didn't play an A game in San Jose. They didn't. Like, they disrespected the opponent.
Yep.
They did. They disrespected the opponent. But give the opponent credit. I give San Jose credit.
Yeah.
And you see they're getting whacked around pretty good. Like, they're giving up some massive numbers.
Well, that one, I'm not like the one in LA was kind of a scheduled loss to me.
But you know what I mean? Like, they're giving up some massive. Yeah. But give them credit. Like, they showed up and they played as well as they can play against Toronto.
Yeah.
That's not their fault. That's Toronto's fault.
Yeah, they are for sure. But yeah, the Leafs, I think it's imperative, and you've been saying it forever, you don't want that spot.
2-3. Stay out of the 2-3 hole.
They need to get that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play down the stretch here.
I'll tell you, can I just tell you one thing about Toronto?
Yes.
Toronto's got a schedule that is amazingly friendly this week. So they're coming off 3 games out west. Tough. That's a tough trip.
Yep.
But if you look at it, they don't play again until Wednesday. They play Florida, a tired Florida team that's going to play an emotional game tomorrow night in Montreal. Then they don't play again until Saturday against Columbus. So you're talking about quality rest, good practices. One opponent, obviously, Florida is going to be in a pretty emotional roller coaster type game tomorrow.
It's a back-to-back coming off.
That's what I'm saying. That's a tough deal for Florida. And then Saturday night in Toronto is never easy for the opponents.
And if I'm not mistaken, Pierre, that is one of 3 left against Florida, or 2?
Well, I think it's 2 now.
2
Check.
now. Yep.
I think it's 2 now.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're
going to Florida. So what happens is Toronto goes, just going off the top of my head, they go down to Florida after their game with Columbus. And they play Florida and then Tampa, I think. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. So they've got
Columbus Saturday night.
Yep.
And then they go down to Florida.
Tuesday. So another 2 days or another 3 days.
They got time off. That's what I mean.
Yeah. And then they play back to back, like you said, against the Lightning. Then back home. Back home against the Habs on April 12th on a Saturday. But then down to Carolina the next day. Back in Buffalo on the 15th, and they close it out against the Red Wings at home.
So they got 2 games left with Florida, like we said. That's it. So
they could do some damage there head to head. And then out west, Pierre, I mean, geez, you think St. Louis is going to catch Minnesota?
They could. Minnesota's starting to get some guys back. I know. So again, it reverberates around the system. Guys are being sent from Minnesota to their farm team in Iowa, and then guys from that team are being sent down. So that's what we're talking about. The bucket's pretty full with a lot of these teams when guys start to get healthy again. So that's something to watch. But they could catch him. What did we say last week? You and I both. We never rehearsed it. We're like, oh man, you don't want to play Jimmy Montgomery, St. Louis Blues. You just no way, Jimmy. No way.
No.
Yeah, this would be. Let's just say they get Winnipeg. Let's just say. Oh my gosh! And Scott Arneal's done an amazing job there.
No.
Like that'd be like the worst present you could ever get.
Yeah, you're running into a buzzsaw there. And I mean, no disrespect to Billy Guerin and the Minnesota Wild, but
no, it's just different because of the injuries. It's a totally different deal.
Yeah. So that's
oh my gosh, if I like any of those teams, even if you're Vegas, let's just say you're Vegas and you finish first in the Pacific, or you finish first in the West, and you got to play St. Louis. Like, why did you finish first? Like, to play those guys, they're maniacs.
I know. And you know what's crazy? You look at it right now, Pierre. I don't know. I'd have to go, like, I don't know where they were, let's say, when the Four Nations face-off ended.
They were single digits. I
know, but I'm talking about goal differential, which is
okay,
you always look at.
Yeah.
They are at a plus 17 right now.
No,
I'm going to guess they were way worse than that.
Oh, they were minus.
Yeah. Like that's, and you look at the two teams around them right now, right? So you got, let's say, two teams chasing them in Vancouver and Calgary. Vancouver's at a
They're
minus.
not making it. Those two teams aren't making it, Jimmy.
And Calgary's at a minus 24. But the team that they might surpass, that we're talking about, the Minnesota Wild, they are a minus 9. They are currently, if the playoffs started today, they're the only team entering the playoffs in the West with a minus. Is the Minnesota Wild. And I know they've had tons of injuries. I'm not trying to knock them, but
you're calling it the way it is. They've been decimated by injury. Now, just remember one thing. I would be shocked if they're not going to get Bouillon as soon as it's over Denver, whether they win or lose. Now you got to remember, it's not next weekend, it's the weekend after. But they're getting Bouillon. He's going to be there. So you're going to have Brock Faber and Bouillon on your back end.
Yeah. Did you see Billy Guerin's face during that game yesterday?
No.
When he's like, really, my alma mater, BC, can't beat them, so I can get this kid to Minnesota? I mean, he looked like he was mad. It looks like he's like, oh, I'm happy the kid won, but at the same time, I want to go home with him.
No,
Signed here.
No, I get it too. I mean, if you're Washington, you're doing cartwheels because you're like, okay, we get Ryan Leonard.
Oh yeah.
We don't have to wait 2 more weeks. We can get him in the lineup, get him playing, and get him to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, he could be a handful. He could be a tough guy in the playoffs this year. He could.
It's going to be interesting. All right, let's get before we get to our sponsors, I do want to talk about our favorite place in Montreal to broadcast live from here. Because we will be there Thursday, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern live. There you go, right there. McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street in Montreal. Remember, it's not the original McLean's. It's down closer on the lower side of Peel Street, closer to the Bell Center. But you can make the extra couple 100 feet up the street, cross over St. Catharines, and it's right there. Keep going up Peel, a few doors up on your left. Walk right in there. Bang a left right as you walk in, and you'll see Pierre and me right there broadcasting from the front window. Great little spot there. We really had a great time at the Four Nations face-off there, and that's why we're so psyched to work with Stu Ashton and the staff at McLean's Public House. Again, we'll be teeing you up for the Montreal Canadiens hosting the Boston Bruins, which obviously is a pivotal game. I mean, a huge game for the Montreal Canadiens, as we know, in the playoff race. But as we were saying last week, people are kind of looking at it like, oh, well, it's kind of the luster's loss in terms of the rivalry there. Hey, the Boston Bruins would like nothing more than to go up to Montreal right now and screw up the chances of the Montreal Canadiens making it into the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. They could very well have the player you see right there with that A on his jersey could be in the lineup for that game. Charlie McAvoy practicing in a contact jersey today for the first time since before the Four Nations with the Boston Bruins. They haven't targeted his return yet, but he could play Thursday. So we'll see what happens with that. And then, of course, the other man in that picture, as we said, is one of the hottest players in the NHL, the captain of the Canadiens, Nick Suzuki. So really looking forward to that. I'm working with Stu right now. He's got some promos we'll be discussing in the coming days. Might actually be, it's up in the air, but there might be a special guest coming in. So we'll see what we can do if we can secure that. But join us there. Really excited to be there. Come down to the Public House. before the game. And if you're going to the game, you'll be treated right. Wear your Canadiens jerseys, wear your Bruins jerseys, wear your colors.
Jimmy's encouraging public warfare.
Yes, I am. Why not? Why not? Hey, you know what I'll say though, and not so much in Boston, but from what I've seen, Pierre, in Montreal, is it's a much more respectable rivalry in terms of, obviously if you get too many in you, there are some incidents, but they respect each other. I've seen Bruins fans and Canadiens fans throwing them back together, having great hockey conversations. It's a respectable rivalry. I like that. So
I just like going to Stu's place. I do. I like going to Stu's.
Wait.
Have a ton of fun. The people are amazing. The one time, I want to say it was probably before one of the first Four Nation games. I just sat there watching the game on TV afterwards, after our show was done.
Yep.
I must have talked to probably 20 to 30 people.
I remember that.
I had such a good time.
Yeah.
The people were so amazingly kind, and they asked really appropriate questions.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, they weren't rude. I know they'd all had a couple belts in them, but so what? They were fun.
Yep.
They were nice people. And Stu's, the atmosphere there, that's a really, like, that building. Look, and I grew up maybe a 10-minute walk from there, 15-minute walk from there. When I was a kid growing up, that building didn't look like that. Let me tell you that right now, Jimmy. It just did not look like that. Okay?
No.
The only building that looked the way it did in those days is the building that's right across the parking lot from where Stu's place is. And that was a special place. That was Burke's. And so, it was a different place. And the senior, I want to say the Brofmans owned that building, and it was a pretty special place. Yeah. But that was the only building on that street that looked like that back in the day. Let me tell you right now.
Yeah, it looks a lot different now, as does so many places in Montreal. And by the way, the last time we were there, we met a family member of Lucas Mercury, who, by the way,
just got traded to Tampa. By the way, I looked at the depth chart of Carolina when they did that, and I kind of see why they did that, because at center, he would be in a logjam. It'd be tough. Mm-hmm. But for Tampa, that's a good pickup. This he's big, he's strong, he's starting to come offensively. He's very good on faceoffs. He's good on faceoffs. Yep. I thought that was a good trade for Tampa. He'll definitely help them in Syracuse. Definitely help them in Syracuse right this year. I mean, in the playoffs. So it's a good pickup. It's a really good pickup for them.
Good Montreal kid. Congratulations to him on a great career at UMass. All right, let's get to our sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. You can unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics, from around the corner to around the world. Flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And, of course, Betway, our wonderful sponsors there. You can go all the way with Betway still and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Now, that's for new customers. So if you're not a customer, you want to go right there to that QR code in front of you if you're watching, or go to the details section in the website and sign up for a new account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. It is not available in Ontario right now, and you must be 18 plus. And always, please bet responsibly. Let's go to our sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, I'm going to go to the city of brotherly love, where the Flyers have found, and it's not that I've got two.
Wait a second. Don't get crazy on me. They got 2 wins, and Bradshaw is a really good coach. I get it, but let's just.
Well, you'll hear my reasoning there. So I'm going there. And the only reason I'm going there right now is, and then as Pierre mentioned, they have got 2 wins. They got that, usual coach bump. But one thing they're doing more right now, as has the other team at times that they're playing, they're hosting the Nashville Predators, and both of them have struggled on defense, is goals. Have been going in both for and against each team. And that's why I'm a little surprised to see the over-under at 5.5. I believe that's a little low for these two teams right now. So give me the over there. I'm not saying the Flyers are going to win again. They're going on a roll. I just like a lot of goals in this. I could see about 6 or 7. So give me the over in that. You can get the over at -120 right now at Betway. And then I'm go out to Denver, Colorado, where the Colorado Avalanche and the Calgary Flames are playing. The Flames barely hanging on, as we discussed right now, to get into a playoff spot. But let's face it, they're happy just to be in this mix right now. And of course, the Colorado Avalanche are one of the legit Stanley Cup contenders going into this. I don't think this game is going to be a tight one either. I like some goals in this one. I think the Flames, obviously, you're going to do everything you can. You're getting into the playoffs right now. I think they might open up a bit more than they usually like to. That's why I think their defense lets up a bit. Colorado can score. Give me the team total over for the Colorado Avalanche, over 3.5 at -130 value there. All right, let's get to our Q&A. What do we got? Randy Workman. Hey, Randy. Pierre, do you know anything on UConn goalie William?
Not a lot. He didn't play very much this year, so I don't really know very much.
I know. I was surprised to see him getting these starts late in the year like this in the tournament. But he played well. I don't put that loss in.
No, we don't have any knock against him, but I don't know very much about him.
All right, next question. Peter, I'm going to try not to murder your name here. I apologize. Peter Menudrakos, I hope I got that right, is the reason why they have a week between regionals and the Final Four is not going up against NCAA basketball Final Four. You're absolutely right, Peter.
There you go, Peter. You got it nailed. This was something that was discussed when I was coaching back in the 1980s in college. And a lot of the older coaches who had done so many good things for college hockey said, you know what? Why are we doing this to ourselves? It's ridiculous. We're beating our heads against the wall to compete against basketball. We have no shot. Let's just create a separation point and just be our own show. And that's what happened. And I think it's really helped. I do. It wasn't really popular when they first started it, but especially with NHL teams, because you had to wait longer for players. But I do think it's made a difference. I think it's been positive.
Yeah, I like it. The only thing, Pierre, I wonder, were coaches against it because of it killing momentum?
That could be part of it too, but I think NHL people were more against it. Mm-hmm. They had to wait longer for their players.
All right, next question. Kathleen, with Montreal in the thick of a battle to make the playoffs, would this be a good time or bad time to bring Jacob Fowler onto the team? Too much pressure too soon? Would Laval be a better choice? Kathleen, Pierre and I had this conversation about 2 hours ago. Go ahead, Pierre.
Go ahead, Jimmy. You start.
Well, I mean, I'm in agreement with what you said, and I've thought this all out. Yeah, you put him in Laval right now. He's going to get more action there. Why throw him into this right now? If he fails or he struggles, you're killing his confidence right off the bat. Laval likely, and this is no knock against the Montreal Canadiens. I got a feeling they're going to be playing deeper into their playoffs. It's more experience. I like it there.
I love it. It's the proper next step for him. And if they put him in Montreal, then they know more than you and I. But I think that Laval is a perfect place for him to go. He can learn on the job rather than be force-fed on the job. There's a big difference. And that team in Laval is built to have a big run. Like my partner said, Jimmy's right on. They're built to have a big, long run. So we'll see.
All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski. Michael Misa keeps rising and rising in the draft boards. He's now on most mock drafts at number 2. Do you see a situation in this draft could be like the 2008 one with Stamkos and Doughty with Schaefer and Misa? I think somebody asked that last week too, Peter.
Yeah, and that's what we said. We said 100%.
Yep.
I could see that happening 100%. And, you know, one of the things that will be interesting is Misa going to stay or is he going to go play college?
Yep. Yeah.
It's going to be really I think he might go to college. I think that's going to be this off season is going to be really interesting. Before I came on with Jimmy, I was working on Jeff Merrick's show, and I had a ton of fun doing that. Jeff's so good at his job; he's so good, darn good. And the one we were talking about colleges and players and free agents and all that stuff. And then I'm thinking in my mind before I'm coming on with Jimmy, like, what happens if Gavin McKenna leaves junior hockey? Like, what happens, Jimmy?
A lot of a lot of people in junior hockey being upset.
Could you imagine, like, if you own the Medicine Hat Tigers and he leaves? So I just saw that Sasha Boisvert went in the portal from North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
You know who he played junior with in Muskegon?
Ooh.
Joe Connor, who's a Tampa Bay draft pick who plays at Northeastern. I'm not saying Boisvert's going there,
But
you start doing 2 and 2, and usually it equals 4.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot, and I got to believe if he's leaving Dakota, he's leaving so he can go play Beanpot. You don't leave Dakota. If you leave, you're leaving because you're going for another step up in terms of exposure and experience. And any of those 4 Boston Beanpot schools, it's hard. I mean, I can just speak to it from experience. I know, from we went through with my son, it's hard to look past the Beanpot experience. It is. It really is.
So their new coach might want to make a big splash.
Yep. I'm just saying.
And then, as you pointed out to me, look like Michigan, they didn't make it. There's a lot of things going on there where it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. It's becoming more possible as we.
It's going to be. This is. We talk about the draft, and I'm going to use a Cliff Fletcher phrase: drafts schmaft.
Yeah.
I'll trade all the picks. I want to see what's happening with these guys.
Yeah.
Like, how many guys are leaving the Q? How many guys are leaving the O? How many guys are leaving the Western Hockey League? How many kids are leaving the USHL or the BCHL to go play Major Junior?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen with Penticton?
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Jimmy, I mean, this is like, we may have to work every day this summer, and this is not work. This is fun for it. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And there's going to have to be a clearinghouse for people to keep up. There are people that are addicted to this.
Yeah.
But they want to know.
You just gave me an idea, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to steal it. We'll talk off air. All right. Next question. Juice _ 031 Thoughts on Caden? There you go. Caden Lindstrom going to Michigan State.
I'm surprised. No disrespect to Michigan State. Like, the late Ron Mason was an amazing coach. The amount of great players that have come out of that program is amazingly overwhelming. I'm shocked, being a Columbus draft pick, that kid didn't go to OSU, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they wanted him right there in their backyard, so they could just take an Uber down the street and go watch him play every weekend. I mean, yeah, I was shocked too. All right, next question. Ryan Workman, Pierre and Jimmy, what do you think of our prospect goalie Arseny Sergeyev from Penn State? I think he looked really good last night.
Really good, like, fantastic.
Of course, former UConn goalie as well. So.
Yeah, look great.
Yeah. So, all right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, who's your Hart Trophy pick right now? Nate, McKinnon, or Kucherov? I saw whoever ends up winning the Art Ross, and if they tie, give it to the guy who has the most goals. I don't know if those are my final 2. I am.
Do you have Draisaitl in there?
Yes, I have Draisaitl number 1.
Do you?
Right. Yep.
That's cool. That's courageous of you.
And then I have Nate number 2. And number 3, you're probably going to think I'm smoking the funny stuff, but if they were to make the playoffs, and I know he's a defenseman, Zach Rowinski.
I don't think you're nuts on that. I'm thinking, like, I'm just trying to do the deep dive. Yeah, I mean, Makar, Werenski, they've made a difference. Look at Lane Hudson, man. Lane Hudson's tied for 4th in scoring by defensemen.
It's crazy.
He's going to get over 60 points.
If he doesn't get the Calder or something.
No, but Nick Lidstrom's the last guy. Nick Lidstrom had 60 points. He's going to get more than 60, this guy.
Yep.
He's going to blow right by Lidstrom. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So my order is going to be McKinnon 1, Kucherov 2, Draisaitl 3. And if the Tampa people are watching, like I think Kucherov to me, we all do. But you watch Nathan every night, night in and night out, and you're like, oh boy, look at how many players he makes better. Look at how much room the other guys get.
Yeah.
Nathan's she's something else. He really is.
For sure. It's going to be interesting. We'll dive a little more deeper into all the awards when the season ends, and we'll kind of give you our take on that because it'll be fun. There's so many good races. The coach of the year, the Jack Adams is, I think,
we talked about this on Jeff Merrick's show. So let me ask you a question. How come Scott O'Neill's name's never mentioned? I said that. Like, he should be mentioned.
Because he's in Winnipeg.
I know, but he should be mentioned.
He should be mentioned,
He's done an amazing job. Carberry's clearly one of the guys. If Calgary had made the playoffs, Ryan Huska would have to be one of the guys. You know, what about Jim Hiller in LA?
Yep. Do you put Jim Montgomery in there as a late addition?
See, that's the hard part is, and I went, like, I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but the first 20 games I coached in the NHL was the third best record in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there was a lot of stuff, coach, but no, I was like, look at, dude, I just want to take care of my team right now. I'm not worried about that stuff. And then we lost 3 key players. And then we lost 2 more. And then we went from having the third best record through 20 games to after 40 games, one of the 4 worst records. Mm-hmm. So it shows you when you're doing the rebuild and you lose key components, it's freaking hard. Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah. So I think Carberry's going to win it. If you were to ask me one coach.
What about Dean Emerson, though?
Dean's done a good job, but I don't know. I mean, Carberry's like, dude, they're running away with the league.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, there's so many good stories out there.
No, Dino should be in the mix for sure. He's done an amazing job. By the way, compliments to you for getting Donnie Waddell. I thought Donnie the other day.
Oh my gosh.
I thought Donnie was so good. Yeah, I thought he was really good. In fact, I've known Donnie a long time. That's probably the best, most relaxed I've seen him.
He's great.
Yeah, so I thought he did really well. Yeah. I really enjoyed
it. It was fun for me too, Pierre, because as you know, I got to interview him for RG Media in the beginning of the year for a written story. To see him then, I was thinking about it after we got out of an interview. In that interview back in October, and that was right before the season started. You remember it? It was I went to that thing in Dorchester, Mass, where I saw Marty Walsh and Sarah Stanton.
Yeah.
You know, for the Friendship 4 and all that.
Oh, I remember clear as day.
And it was that same day. And he had this weird sense of like, we're gonna come through this. We're gonna get through. There was just this, it wasn't like a cockiness, but it was this weird confidence. And look at how it's translated from him down to the coach, to the players. Just an amazing job all around by Columbus, whether they make the playoffs or not.
No, they're already in, like, their playoffs are already going on and they've made it.
Yeah.
Like, they've been relevant this whole year. They deserve a lot of credit.
The future's so bright.
It is bright.
With
the one thing I'd say, they might have to do some work with the goalie.
Yeah, the goalie. Yeah. Though at times I give Elvis credit. He's been a lot better than that.
It's not. I'm just saying they're going to have to fine tune the goalie position. Whatever they do, they're going to have to make it better.
All right, next question. What do we got? Franco, question. Considering some teams facing specific challenges in free agency, higher taxes, is there anything teams can do outside of dollars and cents to help attract top talent, such as provide housing?
No, that all counts in the cap.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you can't. There's none of that. That's why, you know how they do the parents trip? A lot of the NHL and the NHLPA thought that could potentially be a salary cap violation.
Really?
Yeah, they did when they first put it in. Because what's to stop you from saying, Jimmy, your son's playing on our team, and we want to bring you on to the charter. Oh, and by the way, here's welcome aboard, and here's a gift for you, and it's an envelope full of $100,000 bills.
Yeah,
or $100,000 worth of bills.
Yeah.
What would stop me from doing that? And you're to pass it on to your son. It's a salary cap violation.
Yeah, and also, Piers, you're speaking there too. Like, if you've got players that are, approaching when they can become an UFA, it's almost a recruiting trip with your own player. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
Family to see this is how we do things. You want your son to stay here. You really do.
You're right. It's a good point. One of the best ones, though, I can tell you, it was coming right out of the lockout in 04-05. And this is a good one. Kevin Lowe, and you'd Google it for me, Jimmy, if you don't mind. When did the Edmonton Oilers put in their kitchen with the private chefs? And I'm going to say it was the 05-06 season, because in 06 they went to the Stanley Cup final with Craig McTavish coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people thought that was one of the first salary – I think it was one of the first salary cap violations, I think. They didn't cheat. They weren't cheating. Do not get me wrong. But it was a creative idea, and then everybody started doing that around the league.
You're right. It was 05-06.
So there you go. I'm just telling you. So – it just shows you there were a lot of creative thinkers. Kalo did that, and Kevin's a friend and somebody I really respect. But that was smart by him, because what's the one thing everybody said? Who wants to go to Edmonton in the winter? It's freaking cold, it's windy, it's snowy. But you could drive your car in, you park it inside, and then you go and you have this hot breakfast before you go. Like, you never had to go outside. It was a smart idea by Kevin.
And you know who they got, obviously, that off season, Pierre?
Christopher Pronger.
There you go.
So,
all right, next question.
And look, there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I thought that was one of the smarter ones to start.
Everybody's got them now. Yeah,
because now you can't have an NHL team unless you got a kitchen and cooks,
and everything's made to order.
Yeah, 100%. Like, so that all started there.
Yeah,
that was a really good idea.
That's good intel. All right, next question. Mike, Pierre, is it not difficult to have this is Mike asking, Pierre, is it not difficult to have a successful forecheck when you are playing man-to-man in your zone? It looks like the Habs waste so much energy in their own end.
Man-to-man's tough, but a lot of teams are trying to get into – I watched who did I watch last night? They were playing a modified man-to-man. Oh, Toronto. I thought it was really good against Anaheim, and it was a little bit different. They're trying to put more – you can see – they're trying to put more pressure on the point men, the opposition points, and force more, turnovers and put pressure on them. So I thought that was good. But yeah, no, you're right. It's man-to-man's hard, and a lot of coaches teach it. See, I didn't teach that system, and I think from year to year, I'd have to look it up for Jimmy, but I think we cut 82 goals against from one year to the next, because I instituted a little bit different in zone coverage. And made a big difference. It did. It made a big difference. Outside of one terrible loss we had in Washington, our team was in every single game, like every game. And we were in a total rebuild, like a complete rebuild.
Yeah, by the way, and the Ducks with another 1-goal loss. That's 7 since the Four Nations.
Hey, I don't care what anybody says. Greg Cronin is a heck of a coach.
Yep.
I watched them play again. See the development of Sammy Colangelo. See the development of Leo Carlson. See the development of Trevor Zegras, who could have been the odd man out. Yep. Trevor Zegras has improved unbelievably. There's a lot of good stuff going on there.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
Setting the table big time for next year.
I agree. That's a great term. That's exactly what he's doing. 100%.
Yeah. All right, next question. FFFF. Do you guys see Barzal or Horvat a better fit playing center with Demidov in Montreal?
I'd take either one. They're both good fits.
I would too.
Are they available? I don't even know if they're available.
Horvat could be a UFA, right?
I know. I don't even know. What happens if Lou tries to get him signed? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. But they would both be so much. One of the pressing needs of Montreal, and this is not a knock on Owen Beck, and it's not a knock on Jake Evans, and it's not a knock on Kirby Doc. It's just there's a glaring omission, and it's this elite second center.
My bad. Sorry. Horvat signed for a while. I was thinking
it's an elite. He's an elite second center. They need an elite second center.
Yeah, I would definitely, if Barzal became available. Wow. All right. Next question. Habinations. Fowler could play a game this year, but would you risk it if he gets blown out in a must-win game?
I wouldn't. That's just me. I let him play in the American League.
Let him go to Laval.
I mean, people like I don't care. Go put him in the NHL if you want, but I just don't think it's prudent.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's prudent. I think I've watched him a lot.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I watched my son play a lot of games against BC, and I think this kid's really elite. I wouldn't mess with him.
All right, next question. Big guy. Why are the Habs and other wildcard hopefuls so inconsistent during this last stretch?
They're not really deep.
Yeah.
All these teams aren't very deep.
Yeah.
And because they're not deep, there's a lot of pressure, and there are guys playing extended minutes, and that sequencing's off for a lot of these guys. That's the biggest problem.
Yep. There's a lot of teams right now there that I don't think we're planning. I shouldn't say planning with you, that aren't ready to be there. They're still developing, you know.
Montreal is doing unbelievably well. Columbus is doing unbelievably well. The biggest disappointments are Buffalo and Detroit, and the Rangers in the East.
Yeah,
Buffalo, Detroit, and Rangers are the three biggest disappointments.
Agree 100%. All right,
Nashville's been the biggest disappointment in the league.
Yeah. Next question. Mike, with Oliver Kapanen's season coming to an end today, which it did, it just did. Actually, I saw that on Twitter. Would he not help the Habs right now, or would you send him to Laval?
I'd give him a taste up top first. I'd give him a little taste and then send him down for the run. But yeah, I'd definitely give him a little taste up top.
Okay. Next question. Big guy again. Does Arbor, Jack guy, play tomorrow against the Panthers? Why is he being singled out by Marty?
Because some of the plays he made on this road trip were really bad. And the one that was really bad was in Carolina in the second period, where he turned a 3-on-2 into a 2-on-1 that ended up in the back of the net off the stick of Sebastian Aho. You can't do that. I'm guaranteeing you that was just a frustration thing for the coaches saying, fella, we've been telling you this all year long. Like, you can't turn a 3-on-2 into a 2-on-1. Because he's been doing it a lot, and more so at the beginning of the year than now, but he did it again. And I don't think they're singling him out. I just say, you know what, we want to win, and we don't think you give us the best chance to win.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to play tomorrow. I don't think he will.
Yeah, it's nothing personal. He's just going to put whoever the best guys are at this time. I mean, they got to. Yeah. All right. Next question. Ron LaRoque, do you think Gouli is 100%? Watching him yesterday, there just seemed there was something off with his skating, especially starting from a still position. Interesting.
Ron's right on. He's not 100%, but he gives him a better opportunity to win. And, you know, there was a malfunction at the junction with him and Carrier that led to the first Florida goal. But outside of that, you know, gutty performance by all those guys yesterday. Really gutty.
For sure. All right, next question. Phil to a spare. Would you sit Gouli next game to ease him back to avoid further injury? Well, follow up here on the question we just had, much like Laval is doing with Reinbacher.
So the difference is Laval can afford to do it because they got a lot of high octane guys.
Yeah,
and they got a lot of depth in goal. Montreal can't afford to do that with guys right now. They want to make it, so it's unfortunate. I think Gouli's going to stay in and play. I do.
All right, next question. Phil to Bear. Will Montreal go back to Calder's with Lane?
Okay. I don't know about that. Let's just get one first, and then let's run the other guy.
Love the optimism, though. All right, next question. Good. Energized. If you did a 2018 redraft, who would you go? Would you go number 1 Brady Tkachuk, then Quinn Hughes, or Rasmus Dahlin? I would do Brady.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get Pierre started on that.
Look at the radio records are out there.
Yes, they are.
They're out there.
All right. Next question. Juice.
I think Detroit. I think Detroit will sign. I think
Detroit. Augustine going pro. Is he going back to Michigan State?
I think Detroit will sign him, and he's aged out from World Junior, so I think Detroit will sign. So here's the problem for them. The problem for them in Detroit, and it's a good problem. It's getting like New Jersey in the Midwest when Lou was running it, and they had all these goalies, and they're getting there too now in Detroit. You know, Carter Guylander's playing in Toledo in the East Coast Hockey League. Go look at his numbers. They're unbelievable. Go look at Sebastian Kossin, where Grand Rapids is in the American Hockey League. Really good. Like they're starting to get, and Augustine obviously is a very good goalie. I don't think he's as good as Fowler, but he's close. He's really close. I don't think he'll go back to college. I think he'll go to Detroit.
Yeah. they're ready to bring those guys in. The goalie experiment's done there. So, all right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, the Rangers versus Ducks game Friday night was perplexing. The Rangers, that was what a collapse, but credit to the Ducks. The Rangers look like they didn't want to win. They feel like at times they are in open rebellion against somebody in that organization. Alex, I'm not going to get into that drama, but I think we've made it pretty
We've talked about that since last summer when Jacob Trouba's name was out there, and we said they got to find who's leaking and they got to snap that off. They got to get that done. Yep.
So, yeah. Let's just say hopefully lesson learned in New York. I'll put it that way. All right, next question. Surf X11. Pierre, how severe will Carter Bear's injury affect his draft status? I love this.
I don't know. I apologize. I don't know. I do not know the answer to that. I wish I could tell you. I don't know the answer.
Okay, next question. CB, I love the show, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Never miss an episode. Prior to this podcast, I used to tune into TSN Radio Ottawa just to get my Pierre fix. I'm hoping to get Pierre's scouting report on Joey Muldowney.
What a good player at the University of Connecticut. Mike Cavanaugh really found something in him. He's a kid that's got tremendous offensive upside. He can really skate. One of the things that they did at Connecticut, they really became an super aggressive forecheck team, and that really helped Muldowney a lot. He scored a lot in transition. A lot of goals he scored were off the rush. But where he's really good is he can read the forecheck and he finds dead spots in end zone coverage, and he's got a real good shot. No, he had a tremendous year, and he's a high character player. Connor Kurth is very good prospect. He just signed, I think, today or yesterday, if I remember correctly. Good, big, strong, good player. Legit prospect. I would say B plus prospect. So good player. Yep.
Yeah, I like watching him play this year. All right, next question. Max R, is the NHL schedule too tight? Some nights the players have no energy. Can they find a way to cut down on back-to-backs?
The answer is yes, yes, and yes. And the problem you had, Max, this year is this thing called the Four Nations. Everybody wanted it until they started seeing all the guys getting hurt because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know they think it's a cool thing and they think it's better than the All-Star weekend. One thing I can tell you, we didn't have these kinds of injuries when you had the All-Star game.
No, and then next year you got the Olympics.
The Olympics, so it's not easy. But the answer, Max, the answer is yes. You can definitely fix it for sure.
All right, next question. Phil Toulouse-Bear, I hate man-to-man and 4 forwards on the PP. When you have Lane Hudson, why do you need a forward on the point? Will those trends die soon? Hopefully.
It's a team-to-team thing. Now, I'm going to tell you something else, though. If you would have had these 4 forwards on the ice and 1 defenseman, how would you have liked it? So let's just say we'll start with Larry Murphy, who's a Hall of Famer on the back end. We'll have Ron Francis, who's a Hall of Famer, playing next to him. Next to him, we'll have a guy named Joey Mullen, who's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And besides Joey Mullen, we'll have a guy named Mario Lemieux, who's in the Hall of Fame. And just for good measure, we'll have a slot area presence in the name of Kevin Stevens. Would that be okay on the power play? Because that's what we had. And it worked really well.
Wow. Jeez.
It worked really well. Kevin was so good. Kevin was great. Mario was great. Joey could score from his hands and knees. Larry was an amazing distributor. And just to the point, we would have Ronnie take the face-offs because he was so darn good. And as soon as he won the draw, he'd go back and play the point. So I think you'd be okay with that power play with those 4 guys.
How the hell did he defend that? I don't know.
Good luck.
Yep. All right. So that's it for our questions right there.
I think there's one more.
Yeah, there's one more. Yep. I got it from Twitter right here. Bert on Twitter, he's at Big Bert Hockey, asked me a few minutes ago, question for the pod. Pierre's views on Sharks it was on Muldowney. So there we go. Same thing.
Listen,
we just answered it.
We'd be really happy with him. And legit prospect, will definitely need time in the American League. Definitely does. But he is a legitimate prospect. And, people say, he came out of nowhere. He's always been an industrious player. And I think Mike Cavanaugh and his staff did a great job with him.
And Pierre, he also wanted to know about Connor Kurth.
Yeah, we talked about him. Signed with Tampa. Good prospect, legit. I'm going to say he's a B+ prospect. B+ prospect.
Good stuff. Thanks, Bert, for your question. If you are listening or watching, all right, that's it. A great one, Pierre. Great weekend of hockey. Looking forward to this week. This is my favorite time of the year. We've got the NCAA Frozen Four in 2 weeks, but we've got a playoff race. So we will have a great week here. And a reminder, in 3 days, we will be live again right there from McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street in downtown Montreal before the Bruins-Habs game, 4 to 5 p.m. Come on by, say hello, and remember to tip that staff.
Wait a second. Before you sign off, we're both getting there early in case fans want to come down. We're both going to be there early. If you want to talk to Jimmy and I, feel free. We'll stay a little bit afterwards too to talk. But we're doing this because, one, we think the world is stew. We love the property, and we like to meet with the fans.
Very excited.
Like talking to the fans.
Very excited, and hopefully there's some good weather there. I know you guys have been having winter weather still up there, Pierre.
Well, I'm looking outside right now, and it looks like winter, but it's too warm for winter, so it's kind of like yucky.
I wonder if we'll get that fog that we got here in Hampton.
Well, we have fog, but it's kind of like the fog you don't want to have.
All right. Well, as long as my ride up and my ride back isn't like the one back last time, I'm good. We're good. Man. That was an adventure. But looking forward to that. Can't wait to see all my friends up in Montreal and be there and see all our viewers in that area if you come by. And again, Bruins fans, you're welcome as well. Come on in. We welcome.
Oh my gosh, I hope Bruins fans come.
We love it. And I still think no matter what, it's one of, if not the best rivalry in sports. So looking forward to that. But until then, thanks to our man Shane working the boards in Montreal. Oh, and by the way, too, Pierre, while I'm up there, I know you're going to be gone by then, but on Saturday, really looking forward to going to the gala for our man Sammy. They're going to be having a great gala for that.
Sammy's amazing. He's an amazing man. His family, unbelievable people.
Caballeros, I can't wait. They do a great job from what I heard. Over in my old.
You're going to have. Do I have to send a babysitter for you?
No, Pierre. I got to get up early, bright and early Sunday morning to drive home for Maddie. So
just so everybody knows, my wife and I are moving. We're in the process of doing a move, and that's why I can't be at that.
But we will be. I'll raise one for you, Pierre, and that will be it. All right. Cheers for you.
That's good.
Be good. All right. So looking forward to that. And until then, we will see you tomorrow here in the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.